I'm going to Maine for a vacation and I'm making a little coastal grandmother inspired vacation wardrobe for my trip. Just like what I usually do with my capsule wardrobes, I'm taking things that I already have in my closet and then creating a couple of new items to complete the lookbook. To complete my coastal grandmother lookbook, I'm going to be adding 4 new items and I'm going to have to thrift one, knit one, sew one, and DIY one. The coastal grandmother is a style aesthetic that's gained popularity this year because of Lex Nicoletta's TikTok videos. And based on what I know and what I've seen, it is a classy and chic style aesthetic with a little bit of a casual nautical influence. So if you look up coastal grandmother on Pinterest, you see that the color palette seems to consist of 3 core colors: beige, white, and different shades of blue. And because you need clothes to fit your lifestyle, some of the key accessory pieces of a coastal grandmother wardrobe would be things like a hat to shield your eyes from the reflection of the sun from the sea, and a textured sweater to keep you warm when the cool evening sea breeze blows. I'm not going to break this style aesthetic down further in this video, but I think you get the idea. Think Oprah Winfrey and Martha Stewart. Think Diane Keaton in the movie Something's Gotta Give. Think Ralph Lauren and J. Crew having a love child. So with all that said, I think you know why I've chosen the coastal grandmother style aesthetic for this vacation wardrobe. Did you know that Maine actually has a longer coastline than California? There's also over 60 historic lighthouses and tons of cute coastal towns in Maine. Also, instead of creating the classic Pinterest style coastal grandmother aesthetic, I'm going to be sprinkling in a little bit of my own aesthetic, and I'm going to be adding shades of pink to my color palette and also giving the clothes a little bit of a retro treatment. Time to thrift one, knit one, sew one, and DIY one. So I'm going to the thrift stores today. The thing is, today is Wednesday and my trip is actually next Monday. I'm gonna try to get everything that I need today because I'm working the rest of the week. So that means I only have the weekend to put everything together for my vacation capsule wardrobe. I'm gonna be trying to find a pinstripe shirt. It doesn't even need to be like the perfect pinstripe shirt because I could potentially do like a little bit of DIY, refashioned with it. I also want to try to find some fall appropriate materials that I could use to sew my bucket hat. So something like a corduroy or a micro fleece, specifically in like a off-white cream beige kind of a color. So let's get going. So today I was specifically looking for items from my DIY and sewing projects, but earlier last month I had actually already found a bag at a thrift store for my coastal grandmother vacation capsule. Yes, I am actually able to plan ahead to a certain degree. Thrift one, done. So what I've learned from this manic thrifting trip is that a good, crisp, colored blouse is a little tricky to find. But I did manage to find a couple of blouses that I think would go in my coastal grandmother vacation capsule. They're not perfect, but I think they're gonna work. Here's the plan. You know that little embroidered polo player on Ralph Lauren shirts? That is the inspiration. I'm gonna be doing something similar, but instead of embroidering a polo player, which does not make sense at all for me, I'm gonna be giving it a vintage twist and I'm gonna be embroidering my initials on the shirt. And the most exciting thing about it is that I finally get to use my vintage monogrammer attachment that's supposed to go on my vintage sewing machine. I mean, sure, if you have a digital computerized sewing machine with fancy embroidery functions, you can probably do that with a single button, but this is more fun, right? So I got this from eBay a couple of months back and I have not touched it at all. I'm gonna spend some time trying to figure this out and I'm gonna head to the machine and embroider my initials. Oh, it's transparent. Okay, I know this vintage monogrammer attachment looks big and clunky, but the way it goes on the sewing machine is basically just like the way a walking foot goes on a sewing machine, but with a different throat plate above the bobbin. No big deal, but it's only taken me like what, 10-15 minutes to have this thing actually set up on my machine. And now it's time to put it to the test and see if it would actually even work. And it worked! It took me 4 tries to get the stitch settings right, but I figured out the best process of getting a nice thick embroidered letter with this vintage monogrammer. Yes! Okay, now that I've got the setting of the vintage monogrammer attachment right, I'm gonna start doing the embroidery on the actual shirts. I'm gonna start by applying interfacing to the wrong side of the area where I'm gonna be adding the embroidery. And instead of using the initials of my English name, G, I am actually gonna be using my Chinese name. And in Chinese name convention, we do family name first. And so the initials that I'm gonna be applying would be HQW. For the blue shirt, I'm gonna try a diagonal pattern, so it'll be like HQW. And for the white shirt, I'm gonna do a V-shaped pattern, so that'll be HQW. And here's how the vintage monogrammer attachment works. You start off by using the plastic film to mark out where the needle needs to start for where you want the letter to be. Then you set the disc to the starting point and you press the foot pedal down and just let the machine do the work. I mean, it's kind of close to like a one-step button process with a computerized machine, right? Now, when doing my initial test, I realized that I needed to do a triple layered stitching for the letters to look full and thick. So that involved resetting the dial at the end of every letter and then sewing the same letter again 2 more times. But oh, it looks so good, and now I just want to sew my initials on everything that I own. Okay, so I was about to apply the interfacing onto the white shirt, and then I had a brilliant idea. Perhaps I should embroider it on the collar. I have it there instead. HQW. Ah! DIY 1 done. This photo of Diane Keaton wearing this white bucket hat just pops up everywhere while I was doing background research for creating my coastal grandmother lookbook. So, of course, I knew I had to make a white bucket hat. I didn't manage to find anything that's made of microfleece or white corduroy at all, but I found a couple of white denim pants, and I think the denim material will be a good substitute for like a fall appropriate white bucket hat. Then again, thinking about whatever material goes with whatever season is kind of like a made-up fashion rule anyway, so don't listen to me, just do whatever you like, okay? Let's go and make a bucket hat. Okay, I'm not gonna reinvent the wheel and show you all the little steps to sewing a bucket hat because there's already tons of great tutorials and free patterns out on the interwebs. But I'm going to show you my process of drafting my own hat pattern and sewing this version of the hat together the quick and dirty way. Yep, you heard me right. I drafted my own hat pattern because I like the adventure and mystery of not knowing if something that I'm sewing will turn out exactly the way I envisioned it in my head. So basically, this hat pattern is made up of 3 pieces. This crown piece that is a circle, this band, and a brim. The finished circumference of the bottom band is my head circumference plus 1 inch ease, while the top of the band is 3/4 inches smaller than the bottom. I just wanted a slight slope in the top of the bucket hat that looks kind of like this. One thing that I learned from cutting this pattern is that a US size 6 pants gives just enough fabric for a 22.5-inch wide bucket hat. So here's how the hat comes together. The band goes on the crown, and then the brim goes on the band. Okay, not so simple, because while sewing, I realized that the curve for my brim was a little bit too much, but it turned out fine. I just trimmed off the excess bits and evened out the width of the brim after. So after putting the hat together, the two identical hat pieces go right sides together and then get flipped right sides out. For a nice touch, I also did 3 rows of top stitching on the brim. So yeah, that is my quick and dirty process of drafting and sewing this bucket hat. It's so dirty, I think I'm gonna take a shower after this. So one done. Like I said at the beginning of the video, a sweater seems like a key accessory for the Coastal Grandmother lookbook, so of course I had to knit a sweater. And also, it's made in October and I am a warm bunny, so I need an extra layer of something to keep me warm. The yarn that I'm using to knit my sweater is this pink kinky yarn with ramen noodle texture. I actually saved this yarn from a half-finished knitting project that I got at an estate sale. And now, because of the texture of this yarn, I knew that the pattern that I'm picking for my sweater has to be a lot simpler to bring out this cute kinky texture. I was actually super tempted to knit this sweater with the cable and bobbles, but let's face it, it's gonna take twice as long to knit and it's just gonna be too complicated with the texture of the pattern and the texture of the yarn. So I picked this simpler turtleneck sweater pattern instead. I like how the ribbing gives an extra layer of texture without over-complicating things with the texture of the yarn. The pattern actually asks for the front and back pieces to be knitted separately, but I actually knitted them together in the round to try to just speed things up, but still knitting this just took a lot longer than I anticipated. I started knitting this about a month ago and today I am just about to finish up the second sleeve. Knitting just takes so much more time than sewing. It took me almost the whole day, but I managed to finish my second sleeve. I'm trying to be smart about my time, so I decided to steam block my bodice and my sleeve pieces. Okay, yeah, the truth is, I almost always just steam block my knitting anyway. When steaming, I place the iron really close to the knitted piece and I just gently stretch it out as much as it is appropriate while I steam. Here is the bodice before steaming and here is how it looks after steaming. It's coming together. Knit one. Not done. We're already on the road and I still have about 4 centimeters worth of the turtleneck to knit, and then I also have to attach the sleeves to the body of the sweater, but I'm confident that I can get it done before our flight tomorrow. So if you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel because I'm really excited about showing you my Coastal Grandmother vacation lookbook. See you in the next video. Bye! Izzy, say bye!
So you gotta come forward. Walk yourself forward. So as you put pressure on it, you gotta come forward. Down.
Oh!